If you have your Bibles, we are turning to Genesis 50, 15 through 20. Genesis 50, 50, starting in 15 through 20. Yeah, Genesis 50, 50, 50. 50, 50, yeah, 50. A while ago, I don't know if I told this story before, but a while ago, my friends were amazed to hear their 5-year-old daughter, Lindsay, telling her friend about Jesus Christ. The two girls were sitting at the front steps of the house. And so the parents were hearing this, so they tiptoed to the front of the window there in the living room so they could get a better understanding or hearing how their daughter Lindsay was witnessing. And so Lindsay told her friend, she said, believe in Jesus Christ. All you have to do is pray and ask for forgiveness of your sins, and He'll come and heal you, and then you can make heaven your home. Lindsay's friend, the little girl, was convicted, and she said, I want to pray, Lindsay. When she was done praying, she looked up. And she asked Lindsay, hey, will my mommy be in heaven too? Lindsay thought for a moment and replied, yeah. If she believes in Jesus, she will definitely be in heaven. But if you don't want her to go there, then don't tell her about Jesus, so she doesn't have to be forgiven. Forgiveness matters. Sometimes in our lives, if we think about it, we are unwilling to forgive. And if you think about it, if you go into heaven, you're unable to forgive, and there's a person that you're have some anger or hatred too, and they're standing before you, you think, man, I'm going to spend time of eternity with you. And that's a problem because you haven't forgiven. You harbor things, you hold on to things. There's some things that should be let go, but because you can't, because you can't let go, the Lord can't use you the way He wants to, or you won't be in the place where God wants to use you. And we're going to see from our text that there are a group of brothers that decided to do something to a brother, but because of it, God meant it for good. If this brother would have said, you know what, I'm upset, I'm angry, then he would have never been used by God to the degree that he should have. If you don't want your mother there, don't tell her about Jesus Christ. Unforgiveness. You can be saved, but your friends can't. That's not the right mentality. Here tonight, when we leave this place, we're going to have the ability to forgive the offenses that have come before and the offenses that will come. Because we need to learn how to forgive. Genesis 50, verse 15 through 20, if you follow along with me. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. So they sent messengers to Joseph, saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespasses of your servants, of the God of your father. And Joseph wept with them, wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for I am in the place of God. For am I in the place of God? But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring it about as it is this day to save many people alive. Let's look firstly at the wrongs in our lives. Perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which he did to him. There are people that are coming after us. There are people that are going to do us wrong. If you know the story of Joseph, his brothers took him and then they gave him a few good elbows and fists. They beat him up. Then they throw him in the bottom of the well. They take his coat of many colors. Then they sell him. Then once he gets sold, of course, he gets in Potiphar's home and he's doing good things. Potiphar says, this man is blessed. Then Potiphar's wife says, he is blessed. She wants to have an unrighteous relationship, and he says no, and then he gets thrown into prison. And we know he interprets the dreams, he gets forgotten, until Pharaoh has his own dream. There are things that happened in his life that people did him wrong. And I want you to go back in your mind right now, in the reel of your life, so far as it's been played out. Are there people that have done some wrong things in your life? Can you pinpoint areas where you were innocent? You didn't do anything wrong, and so yet the blame was put on you. And now, all these years, you carry that weight with you. They said, they knew we did evil. They told their father, they told their dad, hey, Dad, guess what? We did some crazy things to our brother. What if he comes after us? I remember in middle school, we had, they gave every single student a Apple laptop. We would carry it around with us. We had it with us all the time. And so in English class, we were doing some kind of project. And on each laptop, since it was given to you, it had like a certain barcode, they knew it was yours. They knew it was mine. And so my friend was like, hey, can I use your computer? I need to print something out, but my computer's not working and I want to do it from yours. I was like, sure, I don't care. As I'm doing my English project, he creates on Word this invitation to a party at his house after school, not bring drugs and beer and stuff. He creates this thing on my laptop, puts it in, makes it, and unbeknownst to me, he starts printing them out on the teacher's printer. So of course, it starts going off. The teacher's the one that picks up the pages because she's like, who's printing for my printer? She picks it up and she reads, big party, Jonathan's house tonight, bring blah, 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 blah. And it shows where it's coming from, where it's being received from, and it's from my laptop, right? And so she comes up to me and she asks me, what's the deal with this? Why are you making this invitation? Of course, it was still on my laptop. It was still there. And I was like, I have no idea how that got there. I didn't want to rat out on my friend. I didn't want to do that. So she said, you're going to call your parents. You're going to tell them what you did. And that's when my eyes got even wider. And because, I've been, my parents hear that I'm doing invitations for a party, and I'm like, oh no. So I remember going out through the door, went to I don't think it was the principal's office, it was another teacher's office. She didn't want to do it there, so right before I was going to call my parents, and I was like, I'm already like ready to just cry. I have tears. Tears are already coming. My friend Jonathan comes in. He says to our English teacher, hey, it wasn't him, it was me. It all got straightened out, but man, a wrong. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want this. And sometimes in the will of God, there's going to be things that are taking place. Joseph, as he's getting the dreams, right? As he's getting the dreams, the bales of hay will bow down, the sun and moon bow down. I don't know if Joseph really wanted this, but it's still yet it's his destiny in his life. It's going to take place. It's going to happen. And how it's brought to play, you can see in the end, God's hand all the way through it. But when you're in it, it's like, I'm not asking for this. There is pain involved. There are issues that come up. Moms and dads, brothers and sisters. There are sons and daughters, members of the church, pastors even, people that are close to you that will fail you, hurt you. And you have to learn how to forgive them. Police officers, government, law, politicians, bosses, they will come after, or maybe not come after you, but they're going to use certain things to their advantage. So that they don't get hurt, but that you get hurt. Offenses will come our way. What are you going to do about it? Or you're the one that is causing the offense. We could very well be the brothers in our story. How many of us ever get jealous or upset? You could be just like Reuben or Judah. How come he gets the coat of many colors? How come he's the favorite one? He's the youngest one, and still yet he seems to get all the blessing. How is it that they're the ones that are experiencing revival? How are they the ones that are doing better than me? And because of that, we cause the pain and torment. We get upset. We say the words. We push the buttons. We try to get back at them because of the blessing that God is trying to put in their lives. What do you mean the sun and moon's going to bow down to you? How am I going to be a star that's bowing down to you? Heck no. I ain't bow down to no brother. I'm a Jew. I bow down to no one, right? It's Mordecai saying to, what's his name? Haman. I bow down to no man. We feel that same thing. And this gets on us. And we can cause others to stumble because of our own jealousy, hatred, anger, whatever it is that comes against them. And then we see here that they come before their dad. They somehow came and they talked to their dad. He say, tell Joseph, before your father died, he commanded us, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive your trespasses of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. You try of your own way to ask for this forgiveness. Hey, Dad. A roundabout way. You know, why didn't they go to Joseph and say, hey, I'm sorry for the things that I've done to you? You know why? Because it's hard to admit that you're the one that's causing the problems. And sometimes it's hard to see the forgiveness take place in someone when they're angry at you, when they're upset at you, when they're coming against you. What are they going to do? Are they going to come and fight me? Are they going to break me down and hurt me? Are they going to kind of try to circumvent, or what are they going to do? So here, instead of going to Joseph, they go to their dad and say, oh, Dad said this, Joseph. Dad said this. You got to follow it. Before he died, that's where his last wishes. Or have you met those people that say, oh, I was just kidding. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. As you're just standing there, they come and just like run over you. Oh, I didn't see you there. I'm sorry. There was this time I was drawing and I was really into Sonic the Hedgehog, Tails, stuff like that. And so I drew this pretty cool, to me, it was a pretty cool picture of Tails like flying or something like that. And this, he was a little rough around the edges, to say the least. He turned around, he got my pencil, and he ripped the paper. And I was like, what is your problem? Why'd you do that? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. I didn't think that it was going to do that. Man, oh man, I was mad. And after all that, he said, hey, but it was a pretty good drawing. I had to throw it away. Because someone's a little angry there. They have the ability that I don't have. Oh, just kidding, man. I didn't mean for that to happen. You're going around certain things. And that is not forgiveness. No, you have to face them. If you see in our verse, Joseph is weeping because he realizes, that we're not all whole here. We're not all together. There is something that's not connected here that we need to get right. This cover-up, this shamefulness. We need to move on, because if not, it's going to destroy what God wants to do. According to the Chicago Tribune, one husband and wife from London, England, had more than their share of arguments. One day in 1994, they argued so sharply that the wife got in her car and ran him over. The husband, who was 55 years old, lived, but he suffered 45 leg fractures and a skull fracture. He was hospitalized for 5 months, and his wife was thrown into jail for grievously bodily harm. Get this. Then the husband did a remarkable thing. He got out and ran her over. No, I'm kidding. He did a remarkable thing that some might say a dubious thing. He asked the court to set her free. And this is what he told the court: I can't live without her. He is now wheelchair bound. And in response to his request, the Newcastle court suspended his wife's sentence. We have to get something right here, ladies and gentlemen. We can't live without the people around us and the relationships that we have with them. Which leads us to our second point here, and that is forgiveness. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him, and his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. We are your servants. There is now a point of equal standing where Joseph is saying, I am forgiving you. Joseph already had a heart that was willing to forgive his brothers without his father saying, this is what you have to do. Joseph already had a right heart. He wasn't forced into having forgiveness. It wasn't like God would put his arm in a chicken wing and said, Joseph, unless you forgive your brothers, you won't be blessed. Or it wasn't like there was like a reward dangled before Joseph saying, hey, you'll only get this if you forgive. But many times we won't forgive unless there's something for us to gain from it. We love to hold on to anger. Love the feeling that eventually I'm going to get revenge on you. We love harboring guilt over people. Hey, you remember? You remember when you did that? The past wrongs in life you hold on to because it gives you a little storehouse and power to wield and manipulate. Joseph had all the right things to harbor against his brothers. Hey, you remember? You remember my coat of many colors? You remember the things you did for me, for throwing me into that hole, for selling me off? You know what I had to suffer? The prisons, the food, the rats, the mice, the things that I had to endure because of you. Here, come over here. Let me show you how it feels. And, I don't know, did something to them. That is what we love to hold on to. Keep it close to us because it feels like, hey, I have some power. You know, if I was Joseph, I would have put some gum in their hair or in their beards when they were sleeping before they went back home. I don't know if they had gum back then, but something that they chew on. When they left, this is my payback. But you see, Joseph's heart was right. What I want us to understand here tonight is that if there's someone we need to forgive, that you prepare your heart tonight so that tomorrow you're able to tell that person, I'm not holding anything against you. There are some people in our lives that we need to forgive. And there's going to be people that we have to forgive. Because we need to realize that they are a part of our life as much as anybody else that loves and cares for us. We have to have a view of unforgiving as a sin. It's not right to hold on to wrongdoings in your life. It's not okay to harbor feelings of resentment, of hatred, of anger. Those are the things of this world. No, we let those things go. If you hold on to those things, it's going to torment you. It's going to break you down. You're going to miss out on the simple joys in life. It's going to take everything up. It's going to destroy you. It's going to hold you down. I think I've used this illustration before, where there is a thing such as a broken heart sickness. The heart gets oval. Instead of it's usually a heart comes out and then it goes down to a point. Instead of that rigidity about it, it gets soft and open. And people get this when they're under a lot of stress or people that seem to have no one around them. A broken heart syndrome. You know what keeps you strong, keeps you faithful are those that are around you. Each and every one of us need people around us, and the only way they're going to stay there is if you know how to forgive them. Some of us may have to write letters, make phone calls, send texts. Some of us need to have some face-to-face conversations with people that may not even know that they've done wrong to you, but still yet you tell them, hey, I felt something. I harbored something against you, but I'm forgiving you for what you did to me, and I'm letting you know that all is forgiven. That first has to take place here at this altar. There's a verse in the Bible that says you have something against your brother. Go get that right first, and then come present your offering. Joseph had his heart right with his brothers. This is what kept him saved, a right mind through everything, this ability to give things over to the Lord and saying, I am forgiving you. We know he had a hard time. Judah, he said, you all can go back. He's going to stay. But in the end, they all made it up. Because there is a blessing involved in forgiveness. Really quick, these areas where blessing is, it's the release of your burdens. When you're able to forgive, you don't have to carry the weight any longer. As I said, unforgiveness will weigh you down. It's going to hold you. Second is that you can now move on with relationships. We see after this point here that they are now a unit. They're a family. The 12 tribes, they get so big, they become a nation, and then they leave, of course, when Moses says, hey, let's get out of here. You can now move on with your life. You no longer have to dwell on those issues that come up. You can say, all is forgiven. Let's continue on. And thirdly is that now God can move in your life. Joseph said, do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about just as it is this day, to save many people alive. How many people are you supposed to save? How many people are you supposed to save, but because of unforgiveness in your life, it's holding that back? Maybe that person that you have feelings of great anger to or resentment, maybe that's the person you're going to reach. And when you come up to them and tell them, hey, I forgive you, brother, sister, or loved one, whatever, I forgive you. They break down and they express the joy or whatever it is. Or maybe at first they'll get upset. I didn't do you no wrong. I know someone, they had a dad, mom had a divorce. She hated her biological dad and got saved and said, all right, I'm going to forgive you. Wrote a letter to him, I forgive you for divorcing my mom, cheating on her, all this stuff. And he sends her back a letter saying, I didn't do you no wrong. Even if they do that, it's out in the open, hey, I'm still forgiving you. My sins have been forgiven. I'm offering that same thing to you. This last story here shows how sin can enslave and forgiveness frees. A little boy visiting his grandparents was given his first slingshot ever. He practiced in the woods, but he could never hit a target. And he came to Grandma's backyard. He spied on her pet duck. And on impulse, he aimed, let the rock fly, and the stone hit the duck right in the eye, and it fell dead. The boy panicked, desperately hid the dead duck in the wood pile, only to look up and see that his sister was watching the whole thing. They'll be watching. Brothers or sisters, they'll be watching. Sally had seen it all, but had said nothing. After lunch that day, Grandma said, Sally, let's wash the dishes. But Sally said, hey, Johnny told me he wanted to help with the kitchen today. Didn't you, Johnny? She whispered to him, remember the duck. So Johnny did the dishes. Later, Grandpa asked if the children wanted to go fishing. Grandma said, I'm sorry, but I need Sally to help take care of supper. Sally smiled again and said, that's all taken care of, Grandma. Johnny wants to do it. Again, she whispered, remember the duck, Johnny. So Johnny stayed while Sally went fishing. After several days, I can't believe this. After several days of Johnny doing both his chores and Sally's, finally he couldn't stand it any longer, and he confessed to Grandpa, I killed the duck, Grandpa, I killed the duck. He said, I know, Johnny. He gave him a hug. I was standing at the window and I saw you do the whole thing. Because I loved you, I already forgave you, but I wondered how long you would let Sally make the slave out of you. Forgiveness. It was me that did it, but God meant it for good. We have to come with a forgiving heart. Forgive those that have hurt you, used you, or spitefully using you. God can use your life to a greater degree than what you're at currently now. With that being said, let's have every head bowed, every eye closed.